Hey everybody, Brian Fonseca here to tell you about the multi-time award-winning series out now that is Side Hustle, which is created, executive produced, hosted, and edited by me, Brian Fonseca. Side Hustle is a sit-down interview series that taps into sacrifice, the odd avenues taken to progress closer to your ultimate dreams, and some jokes as well. Because we always gotta find it funny, and we always gotta find time to laugh. Side Hustle has been named to the best TV and web series category at several different film festivals, including the 2020 International New York Film Festival, the New York Movie Awards, and a host of others. Be sure to watch season 1 in full right now on either brianfonseca.net or youtube.com/brianfonseca. Brian with a Y, remember. All 8 episodes, trailers, teasers, and promo are free to watch, and the series as a whole is approximately 2 hours long. Everyone has a story, everyone has a side hustle. Be sure to watch season 1, out now.
Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 167. Dexter, Henry, Brian Fonseca here. This is going to be a very basketball-heavy episode. We got our man, the Blacketologist, Jamal Murphy. You can also catch him with us on the Props Network every Friday. NBA Picks and Props. He's also the co-host of the Bros Pod and the Up Next Pod. He's got 2 podcasts going on at a time. Also does some writing for the Undefeated. Jamal, what's up, man?
What's going on? Thanks for having me. Always fun.
Always fun to have you to talk some basketball. Speaking of fun, Brian and I, we like to have fun. We like to talk basketball fun. But apparently, some people around basketball can't enjoy anything these days. I mean, you just can't enjoy anything at all. So, if you've been under a rock, people, if you haven't seen it, Anthony Edwards had Brian, you were calling this the dunk of the year already? You were saying this is the dunk of the year,
yeah, bro? I don't see how it couldn't be.
I haven't sat and really thought about it, as I've sort of watched it like about 12 times already, but I can't think of a dunk that I've seen within the last 12 months. Granted, a few of those months were inactive, but I can't think of anything better. Like, what was the best dunk last year? Because I don't really remember off the top of my head.
I don't remember it being as good as this, if it is. This dunk by Anthony Edwards, rookie Anthony Edwards, we'll get to more of that later, dunked over Yuta Watanabe of the Toronto Raptors. And I mean,
okay. I was trying to remember who he dunked on.
Yeah, I didn't know him. I don't know him to this day.
I mean, it matters, but it kind of doesn't matter, right? Like,
this will be his claim to fame, no question.
That's never a good thing. When you getting dunked on is your claim to fame, that is never a good thing. Anyway, he got dunked on. Again, if you have not seen this, we'll put this up for you in the video, but if you have not seen this, woo! Anthony Edwards just owned him. Twitter went crazy. Everybody's talking about how amazing this dunk is. I'm getting texts from people left and right. We talked about it in our group chat, but there was somebody who decided it had to be the fun police. And then, Twitter and social media came for this person.
More than one person, by the way.
More than one person. Yes, more than one person. I don't want to put this on. A lot of this is going to center around Nate Duncan, NBA cap guy, scout, analytics writer. A lot of it's going to center on him for his tweet. And he had a tweet where he said, Anthony Edwards is all over Twitter tonight, which he was with the dunk of the year. But he said he also had 7 points on 3 of 14 shooting, 0 of 7 on threes. Look, man. I'm going to just start it out with you guys and asking you this. You saw this dunk. We all love basketball. You know what I like? I like seeing people get crossed and then people making the shot. I also like seeing people get dunked on, which is really vicious. It's just a great basketball play. There's never a time in my life when somebody's gotten dunked on and then the next thing I said is, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? Let me go check that box score. Let me go see what they're doing in the game. Like, who does that? Murphy,
unless you really don't like the player.
I mean, but that's hate, though, right? That would be hate.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Murph, have you ever done this? The Brian sounds like you haven't done it.
I mean, I might go check the box scores, see what this kid's doing, but I'm not gonna hate on his dunk.
Not right after the dunk, though, Murph.
I mean, just to know what's going on in the game, I might check the box score. That's the only reason. But no, I mean, and it's really like you said, this is the kind of stuff that gives analytics people a bad name. Okay, because we get it. The numbers matter. stats matter. You know, I agree with that. I'm pro analytics. I look at all numbers I can get my hands on. But when you're so wrapped up in the numbers that you're gonna downplay things that happen on the court and just the pure aesthetics of the game and watching the game and enjoying how the game looks on the court, because that's really how this stuff originates. That's why we're all fans, right, in the first place. So to be so far in your head with analytics that you no longer care what happens in a game or what plays happen in the game, that's what gives these guys a bad name.
Yeah, it does. What about you, Brian? Have you ever seen a dunk that was maybe as spectacular as this and was like, man, you know, it's whack because this dude hasn't really been killing it from the floor. He wasn't efficient enough. Has this ever happened to you?
Not one as spectacular as this. I used to get pissed off like in high school when somebody we played against made a jumper for the first time in a while and they got mad hype. Like I was guarding them, they were 1 for 7, then they hit a 3 and they're 2 for 8 screaming in my face. Like I would get pissed at shit like that. But that's not the dunk of the year contender, one of the best dunks I've probably ever seen in a game. Where I mean, like I'm looking, for those of you not watching this, Dexter's background is a photo of the dunk. And in the photo of the dunk, it doesn't look like Anthony Edwards could make it to the rim. Like that's how far it sort of started out. And then he sort of just takes Yuta with him. I'm not gonna pronounce his last name. He just kind of takes him with him and just like yams it on him. Like he was mad at him or some shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just mad disrespectful. But like, you know, I loved it. It's not something I would do unless I really despise the player, which is I think why Nate Duncan and other people sort of looking and pointing out Anthony Edwards' stats. Anthony Edwards, a rookie, by the way, pointing out his stats. Like I think that's why people got on them, because it's like, yo, he just had this amazing play. And this is kind of what Twitter's become in a lot of ways. Like something great happens and other people are just looking to be that other person to shit on whatever. I try to avoid doing that in my personal life. It can be a little instinctual for some people. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten better at like, you know, somebody does something or somebody that I don't care for necessarily, not somebody I like, but somebody I don't care for does something and I'm just like, oh well this, oh well that. Like there's some legitimacy to that in different instances. But when you have a dunk like this and you're a rookie, I don't think there's a need to, you know, point out his stat sheet, especially when again he's a rookie. Now, if he was an established player or whatever, like if this was Rudy Gay a few years ago when he still really had his hops, and you wanted to point out like, oh, but he's minus this and he's shooting, you know, 4 for 11 again, and we've seen this before, then okay, like I kind of understand that a little bit more. But even then, I'm like, yo, dog, like it was a great play.
Well, there's a couple things there. I think you do bring a great point up about the broader point of society. And Murph, let me know if you rock with this. But here's the other thing for me here, guys. This is a regular season game played by a rookie on the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Like this context matters here. It's a dunk in a meaningless, for the Timberwolves who aren't going anywhere, regular season game. I might have got his point a little bit more if it was a playoff game and it really mattered. But here's where I'm going to even give pause. I'm going to pause myself on that. We all have watched basketball for a long time. Have you guys ever seen a dunk where somebody dunked on somebody? And well, now we're not playing with crowds right now, but in the context that there would be crowds in the building, or if there is no crowd. Murph and I played basketball. You can see how you play basketball, Brian. You can see how a dunk can fire up a team. A dunk like that could spark a 20-0 run, could spark whatever. So to just look at it in the context of numbers, which is what Murph is saying about, even if you love the analytics, and I support analytics, but you also have to enjoy the game, it shouldn't stop you from enjoying that play or the value of what that play could done. Let's just say Anthony Edwards had this dunk, had the same exact numbers, but that dunk sparked his team to go on a 15-2, 20-2 run. Would you then deem it less valuable? Would that then deem the play less important? So I think to just trivialize it to numbers, which is kind of what Nate Duncan did here, it's just ridiculous. And you're being a fun police. You're being a herb. Like, be better. You don't have to be a herb. Like, I think you could be better than this and like enjoy the game. It doesn't have to all be about numbers. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's definitely herb-like mentality. I mean, look at that picture behind you. That it's crazy. His head is at the rim right there. This dude, you talk about sparking, changing the momentum, sparking your team. He might have ruined this poor guy's career who he's dunking on right now. Word. This dude might go home and have nightmares and never be the same. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking, and you know, when you look at it, it's probably I'm gonna just guess why he's saying something like that. I haven't followed closely what he thinks of Anthony Edwards, but this is the number one pick in the draft, so maybe he didn't think that he deserved to be the number one pick in draft. Maybe he's been saying that all along, and he wants to point out
confirmation bias.
The other guys are having better rookie seasons. That's fine, but it's also unfair to him.
Agreed.
It's the ultimate troll because he's actually playing pretty well. He's a rookie. He's averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. And in the last month, he's improved that to 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. In the last 2 weeks, he's playing, even better than that. And I know that because I have him on my a couple of fantasy teams, so I track all this stuff. But no, so I mean, it's unfair to him. He's actually playing well. The game before that, he had a very good and efficient game. And then you're going to point out when he does something like this that what are you trying to say? So it's just corny. Really, altogether, it's just straight corny.
There is no great dunk, guys, where dunks create moments, right? There are these moments that are created in the NBA that anybody's going to go back and say, oh, well, what did this person have? Somebody did this. They actually went through like some of the great dunks and then put up stat lines that weren't that great, like Vince Carter's dunk Vince Carter's dunk over Frederick Weiss. He had like 13 points and 2 rebounds and 1 assist.
You remember what this dude had? That's all that matters.
Right.
Vince Carter.
All I remember is that he put his nuts over his head. That's all anybody remembers. Like, nobody cares about that.
That's the closest thing I've ever seen to this the Edwards dunk. I mean, he didn't jump. I mean, Frederick Weiss didn't jump with Vince, so he was able to jump completely over. This dude jumped with him, and still, when you watch the play in real time, it looks like he did jump over him. Like in the entire play, he's up there now. But when it's all said and done with, he's like over his head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing, I remember I was watching. I might have been watching that Hip Hop Uncovered or something at the time, and on the big screen. And then I was watching. I had the NBA League Pass on the computer. So I just happened to have the Minnesota game. I was flipping through. I had Minnesota on the League Pass. So I saw this shit real time. I'm just like glancing, like, oh, let me see this. Oh, they got the ball, and I was like, holy shit! I was like, is this live? I was like, is this a replay? Did I just see this fucking shit live? I'm sure my wife doesn't give a shit about this. I'm sure my wife like, oh, look at this. She's like, oh wow, yeah,
Yo, and see, that's the mark of a great dunk, right, Murph? Like, you have to show somebody. You got to tell somebody that is so crazy that you have to see this, unless you're Nate Duncan, and then you have to be like, nah, but he's 0 for 7 from 3. Like that. Like,
yo,
come on.
Dex, you rose a great point when you pointed out, like, the person, whoever that is, salute to them, who took great dunks and then the stat sheets for like whatever that player was. Because I'm thinking now of the great dunks, like you mentioned Vince Carter. One of my favorites ever is J.R. Smith, Kevin Harlan. We've just seen a man fly. I think he dunked over Manu Ginobili. It didn't even look like he was going to reach the rim, and like he dunked on him. Derrick Rose over Goran Dragic, where he just straight bodied him. Like, I don't remember anyone's stat lines for any of those games. You remember the moments, and like to some degree, that's what we're watching sports for. Like, we're trying to get these moments.
Clearly not everybody.
Right, but I think big picture, honestly, because the regular season is the regular season, these moments kind of matter more. These moments, like Anthony Edwards, whatever happens from now on, and he may have other moments this big or as big as this, we don't know. Like, he's the first overall pick. Like, it's entirely possible that he becomes a multi-time All-Star. This is something that we're always going to remember. You know what I mean? And I think there's something to be said for that.
No, I agree with you. I wish this dude who did this with these players, I'm going to try to find it so I can send it to you guys. I wish he had gone through even more dunks, because there's so many other great dunks that I can remember. And I was like, yeah, what did Pippen have when he dunked over Ewing? Like, I hated that dunk as a kid, but that dunk is dope. What did Sean Kemp have when he dunked over Alton Lister? I don't know, but he pointed at him. He pointed at him after he dunked on him. I don't know what he had. He probably had the most inefficient game of his career. Who cares?
If this happened in the first quarter,
wait,
first 5 minutes, would you still say that? Does he still get on? Oh,
that's a good point. That's a good point. You know what he'd say? You know what he'd say, Murph? He'd be like, well, it don't matter unless he's efficient for this game. He's only 1 for 3 from the field right now.
Oh, he caught that dunk in the first quarter. Does it really matter? Was it a crunch time dunk?
We're talking about a regular season game. Like, let the guy have his moment, man, and we can enjoy basketball. I think one of my boys said this, and he actually responded to Nate Duncan on Twitter about this. And he said, if your first thought after seeing that is to check the box score, then you don't enjoy the sport. And I think that's fair to say. Like, maybe you don't love the sport in the way that at least we're talking about it do. Like you guys have said, we love it for the moments and what we can see. Your first thought is to be like, yeah, let me see if he's efficient. Nah, man. You don't love the sport maybe the way we think we do. But it's okay. The herbs are going to be herbs. So what are you going to do? Some are always looking for more sports content, and among the glut of sports media, some are looking for sports content that dives a bit deeper and doesn't just stick to sports. So check out Backpack Broadcasting's original long-form sports journalism series, Sideline Stories. The award-winning original series takes viewers directly into underrepresented communities within the world of sports. It's a series that goes beyond traditional sports reporting, like box scores and statistics, presenting exclusive stories that you won't find anywhere else. With a diverse group of correspondents, the series provides interviews and interesting stories around the world of sports, because there is so much beyond the game, and so much that occurs off the field or court that impacts each of us and the world we live in. Giving a voice to athletes, coaches, fans, and everyone involved in athletics, Sideline Stories looks to push sports storytelling further than ever before. It's a winner of the 2020 Independent Shorts Awards, and all episodes of Sideline Stories are available for viewing today on Backpack Broadcasting's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Since we have Murph here, Murph, I want to talk to you about some rookies, because you're the Blacketologist, you know college basketball as well as anybody. I think for a lot of people before the draft last year, and Brian and I spoke a lot about this, we talked to you about it, a lot of people were unsure on LaMelo Ball. You were driving the LaMelo Ball train. You were somebody who was like, yo, man, he's going to be good. And the kids look pretty good. And I think this rookie class has actually looked better than people probably expected it to be. What do you think about what you've seen some of these guys do thus far in the NBA?
No, actually, it kind of fits into what we're just talking about, because the reason I liked LaMelo Ball is because I saw him play even in weird settings, right? Like the Drew League. Like I took something from that. He's playing against grown ass men who are like a lot of them ex Division I players, some ex pros. Like he's playing against real dudes older than him. And I watched like a lot of those Drew League highlights, and he was killing them. Like it was crazy. Like he was just so smooth with the ball. He was playing point guard. He's the best player on the court, playing against older guys. Winning the game at the end with like 3-4 straight threes, like something crazy like that. So to me, you can take things just from watching a guy play on the court. I don't even care who he's playing against. If we've all played ball, we know what we can. There is such a thing as an eye test. It's real. Like we can, you can see people play and find out and determine whether they're good or not. So that's part of it. It's not just stats, what he shot, what he was shooting in Australia or wherever the hell he was. You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. Like you could tell when someone has game, and he's had game his whole, basically his whole life. Like don't get me wrong, I wasn't a believer when he was scoring 100 in high school. I thought that was nonsense. And I saw some of those highlights too, and I didn't think I wasn't convinced back then because I thought he was a gunner. But then all of a sudden, from like, junior to senior year in high school, you could tell he was starting to play more like his brother. Like then you start to see kind of his passing and all that kind of stuff. So, LaMelo to me, he just seemed to be the most talented and have the most upside. But this has been a weird draft because I feel like there are a lot of guys who are going to be pretty good in this draft. And I think we all thought this was a weak draft, and maybe it will be in terms of like bona fide stars. But there are a lot of guys doing better than I thought they would, including quickly with the Knicks. I wasn't a fan of that pick. I was like, what are they doing? I watched Kentucky, and he never jumped off the page to me. But there you go. Like you win some, you lose some.
You win some, you lose some indeed. Brian, are you on this LaMelo Ball train as well too? Your mic is out, Brian. You got too angry.
I was just about to.
I don't understand that shit. Like I don't even know. Is my camera like not even working right now?
Yeah,
like,
now you got.
It's
fuzzy.
A little fuzzy, but.
All right, give it. You know what I'm saying?
You trying to do the TikTok stuff with us?
kind of reach out. Did it fix itself
Yeah,
yet?
you're good.
No?
You're good. You're good,
All
man.
right, all right, all right. We can edit that out. We probably won't. But
Whatever.
LaMelo Ball, like, yeah, I'm rolling with LaMelo Ball a little more than I thought I would at this point of the year. I always liked his talent. Like, to me, he seemed like the number one pick for most of the pre-draft, you know, stuff, analysis, whatever you want to call it. To me, it was really between him and James Wiseman. Obviously, it was Anthony Edwards, but I thought LaMelo Ball, in terms of talent at the guard position, was the most talented guy there, and he's showing that. I love when dudes could come into the league and give you 5, 6 assists a game right away. Like, that's one of my favorite things to see in, like, determining who's a true point guard, whatever the case may be. Preferably, 6 or 7, 5 or 6 assists that don't come with like 20 points or 25 points or whatever, because that I'm not going to go on that whole, pure point guard rant or whatever. But I love LaMelo Ball's playmaking ability, and that's something that he's always going to have. The shooting comes and goes. I think eventually it'll be consistent, and he's shooting a little better from three than I expected, given especially, Australia, his production out there. We saw him in different, as Murph said, other parts in the world. He was at the freaking Spire Institute for a while. Like, the shooting is going to come and go for a little while. One, he's a rookie. And two, like with LaMelo Ball and the way he shoots and how he's off balance on a lot of these jumpers too. Like, these are things that are fixable. So I think there's a pathway to him becoming a guy who averages something like 20 points and 10 assists. And that's something that he could probably do like 2 years from now. And then as far as like other rookies go, I just want to give a quick shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, who is the guy that I and some others, we were very high on before the draft. I thought the Knicks should have taken him at 8.
Me too.
We'll see what happens with Obi Toppin. I still think Obi Toppin will be pretty good, but Tyrese Halliburton is clearly, what they could have used at the starting point guard position. They probably be a couple wins better than they are with Elfrid Payton right now. And Tyrese Halliburton's another guy who's come into the league and he's given you, 12 points, 5 assists. He's rebounding, he's shooting, even though, his shot, like, some people don't really like the form or whatever, shit goes in. He's still, he's still shooting 44% from three and almost 50% from the field. And I think he's somebody who's going to be, a high efficiency guard who's going to give you solid production. Maybe at his peak, he'll give you years of like 18 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. Like, I could see Tyrese Halliburton being that good. So those two guys are probably the rookies that have impressed me the most. And James Wiseman, we'll see what happens because, he's been injured for a while, but he's had some moments before that. And I think he could be a real dominant center, but, he needs to get out of injury first.
Yeah, I like Halliburton. Halliburton's doing what I thought he would. I'm not really surprised. I thought he had a good feel for the game. So and I like your comparison there, Brian. I think he's in that range. Could I see him being Malcolm Brogdon-ish? Yeah, I could see that. He's kind of that kind of point guard.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, he's that kind of point guard. I think he's good. That doesn't mean the Knicks made a mistake because, like Murph said, they got something. Yeah. Looks like they got something quickly. Quickly's a lot better than I thought in terms of handling, running the team, penetrating. He's got a good floater. He's a decent passer, and he could defend. Even he's a smaller, undersized guard. So, you got to give these guys time. And as Murph knows, watching these guys a lot through high school, college, we got to be a little bit more patient with some of these guys as we look at this young talent. But when we look at the league, guys, this season has been very interesting with COVID, man. Like, we talked about this even on Picks and Props. Everything is jumbled. Everybody's together right now. Murph, has there been any surprises for you in the East or the West thus far? Any teams that have really surprised you? I mean, the Knicks kind of come to mind when we think about a surprise, although you and I, we had them banging that 21.5 with the over for sure. But any surprises you think in the league right now? Utah, are they a surprise for you out West? Who's a surprise right now in the NBA?
Yeah, no, I think Utah is a surprise. They're more surprising teams that teams that aren't doing well, like the Celtics surprising me, not being under 500 after that loss today. I think Denver hasn't been as good out of the box as I thought they would be. Another Brooklyn is a surprise of how well they're playing, really, even though talent wins, but it is impressive to see what they've been able to do and not really have those three guys together I think they've been together 6 games or something like that. I think we have to start giving. I mean, it sounds weird. I'm not even sure if I believe this myself, but do we have to start giving Steve Nash credit for being a decent coach, like having these guys, actually play together. That big win when they just had Harden and a bunch of dudes, and they go into Phoenix and win, like that type of thing. Do we give Steve Nash some credit for that?
When they
I don't
start,
know.
I'll give him some credit when they start playing some defense. I'll do that.
Well, Kyrie
and it's still too early.
The coach, right?
Well, Kyrie said everybody could be a coach. Yeah.
Oh, he said he didn't need a coach.
Oh, that's true.
We don't even need a coach.
That is true. We didn't need a coach. We're all coaches. So who we give the credit to? I don't know. I don't know.
Why didn't they give Jacques Vaughn the job then if they didn't need a coach?
Well, there's a lot of things we can go into that about why Jacques Vaughn maybe didn't get that job and just they paid him a little bit more to be the associate. No, the Nets have been a surprise. Jazz have been a surprise. Brian has been on the team Joel Embiid for MVP.
Still there.
You're still
50.
there. You're still there. You're not off the bandwagon. Do you like the Sixers, Brian? Do you like what they've done? Because I think they're a very interesting team in terms of looking. They've changed their coach. They've changed some of the personnel around Simmons and Embiid. They finally got them some shooters. They appear to be playing well. They're winning some of these games without Simmons, and Embiid's looking fantastic, which maybe doesn't bode well for Simmons and trade value and stuff like that. But which bolsters your case for him for MVP. I got all that. Are you surprised what the Sixers have done this year, or you kind of saw this coming with them?
This is weird because I don't quite know how to assess these teams because of it's being so early in the season, COVID. Like we're talking up the Nets, for example, and I go look at the standings and they're just 19 and 12. You know what I mean? And they deserve credit for how good they've looked as of late. But at the same time, that's more so to indicate I don't trust not one of these motherfucking teams so far outside the Lakers. I don't trust anybody in terms of picking them to go to the finals. We talked about this a little bit on Picks and Props. I just don't trust anybody right now because nobody is sort of, taking it right now. And it's still too early. Like I try to be somebody who is reserved early on in the season. We're not even halfway there. We're going into an early All-Star break. Let's see how teams come out of that. I feel like the COVID cases and postponements have really slowed down, though the Spurs are going through something right now. We'll see what happens there. I'm sure we'll have vaccines at some point. Now, the NBA players, probably not all of them are excited about taking the vaccine, but that's another discussion for another day. But like these are all things that are going to affect the season, like down the road. Like I'm already looking at teams like Philly, for example, we mentioned, and out of all the teams in the East, they're probably my favorite team in terms of who I think is going to get to the finals. Now, Joel Embiid, nobody from the Nets is going to guard him. The thing is, he alone can't beat Kyrie, KD, and Kevin Durant. Like, they're going to need Ben Simmons to step up in the playoffs, which we have not seen him do yet. They're going to need Tobias Harris to continue to do what he's doing now, which, we'll see. And then, like, Milwaukee hasn't really looked. They're barely above 500, which is interesting. They haven't looked as good to me, although Chris Middleton's been awesome. The Pacers, who I liked early on, I've cooled on them a little bit, but I still like them a lot. And they're going to get Karis LeVert at some point this season, we could expect, it looks like. And I think that's going to be big because he's going to do a lot of the Oladipo stuff and it'll probably be a better fit. And then just going down, like the Celtics, I don't know. The Raptors are getting better. I don't think the Hornets are going to necessarily stay this good. The Knicks, we'll see. The Heat just beat the Lakers, like I kind of said they would on Picks and Props. Bam defended LeBron really well.
You got to win that game, though. You got to win that game if you're the Heat.
Yeah,
just like the Nets. The Nets went in there and smacked it without KD.
Yeah.
I think the larger point that I'm making here is that, like, and even with the Lakers included into this, I don't think a lot separates, the top 16 or whatever teams in the league. Like, I really don't. If I'm looking at the standings or whatever, how much better do I think Philly is than Miami if both are, relatively healthy? How much better do I think, Utah is from, like, the Nuggets, who are the 7th seed right now? Like, I just don't quite know that. And I think a lot can happen between now and whenever the playoffs are, but I just don't really trust anybody fully.
Yeah, it's hard to say. And like you said, at the top, everybody's jumbled up. Murph, who do you think is the best team in the East right now? Are you giving it to Brooklyn? Because I think Brian pointed out that a lot of other teams have been shaky, but will you give Brooklyn that team you trust to make it out the East at this point? We're approaching halfway through the season. Who do you think is going to make it out the East?
Yeah, I think Brooklyn's the favorite to not only make it out the East, but to win the whole thing. I hate to say it, man, guys, but I wasn't. And when the trade first happened, I wasn't out there jumping around. Oh, the Nets are going to win it all, or blah blah blah. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I mean, usually when you put this much talent together, you're almost guaranteed a finals appearance. You might not win it all, but even then, if you don't win it all, it's on you. It's on you choked or something like that. Talent prevails in this league, and you're putting these three guys together. The only real question was what would they play together, and then even just from listening to these guys talk every day, then seeing it on the court, they have made a concerted effort to be unselfish, and I'm not trying to give them all this credit for doing that. I mean that is what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, if you're a truly great player, and especially Harden, and you haven't won a ring, you should be just trying to do anything you can to win. So if that means playing unselfishly, that's what you have to do. And throughout history, we've seen when you bring all these stars together, usually if they're that good, usually they do that and they take care of business. So I mean, Philly's the best team right now. Even record wise, they know each other. They have chemistry. They're playing good defense. But there's no way. No, if I'm any other team in the league, I do not want to see Brooklyn. Even in the West with Utah, we just saw a game where Utah went in and played the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Clippers had Paul George and Kawhi back. This was a couple days ago, and they outplayed Utah. They took it to them because they had more. They really have more talent than Utah does. I mean, Bogdanovich is a nice piece. Conley's a nice piece. These are good players, but Kawhi is a great player. Paul George is better than Bogdanovich. As much as we want to get on him, he's still better than Bogdanovich and Conley. So it comes down to talent, and the Nets have the most of it. Last season, the Lakers had the most of it because they had 2 top 5 guys. The Nets have more right now. I just hate to say it. I mean, I don't want to sound like a homer, but
but this is how you feel. Do you think the Lakers and I'm wondering with the Lakers now with the Anthony Davis injury, and I think they should probably just rest him as much as they can. Do not play with that calf, which is connected to the Achilles. Don't play with that at all. Just rest this guy, get him ready for the playoffs. If the Lakers are at full strength, which we did not see them against Brooklyn a few nights ago, and as you said, Murph, Brooklyn came in and took care of business. If the Lakers are at full strength, they still have 2 of the top 5 best players in the league, and they're healthy. Do they have a chance against Brooklyn at all? Because it sounds to me like if they play Brooklyn, you're taking Brooklyn over the Lakers even at full strength.
If they're healthy, I'm taking. Now, do they have a chance? Yeah, they have a chance. I mean, they still, like you said, they still have 2 of the top 5 guys, and they have more chemistry. They play better. They're more of no question, they're more of a defensive team even if the Nets play their best defense possible, they're not going to be as good a defensive team as the Lakers are. But they have more talent than the Lakers right now. I mean, they smacked the Lakers, and everybody was like, "Oh well, AD wasn't there." Well, either was KD. He wasn't there either. So, and those guys are pretty close. Most people would probably take KD over AD. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's just a lot to deal with, and I think, but there's no guarantee that when we get to the finals, that Kyrie is injury prone, so we don't know.
See, that's the thing. We're waiting on that. That knee sprain is coming.
There's a lot of factors.
Like, that's the thing I'm not overlooking too. It's like, I know people were very excited early on. Kevin Durant, like, oh, he looks back to normal, all this shit, and then I'm like, look, now that's easy to say. We have to see, like, does his Achilles get sore in April? Like, we're already seeing him, like, he's kind of been in and out of action these last few weeks because of, one was COVID protocol, now something else. And it's like, and with Kyrie Irving, to Murph's point, like, he always gets hurt at some point and misses time. And 3 of the last 5 seasons, he didn't even finish. So I don't know, like, is he going to finish this season? James Harden, the other shoe is going to fall at some point. Like, he's been so durable and healthy and played all these minutes. He's not LeBron James. You know what I mean? Like, we'll see if at some point that's going to happen too. And could they really afford that? Because while they do have the most talent at the top, that's at the top of their roster. Because then after that, can you rely on Jeff Green for a sustainable period of time? Are you going to get something out of Andre Roberson or Noah Vonleh? How is Bruce Brown going to be when these games really start to matter later on in the season? And I think that's where I would give a team like the Lakers the edge, because they just have more depth to me. I feel like they're better on paper this year than they were last year. And although they haven't been awesome so far, like LeBron's not taking time off. Like they're taking this seriously. Anthony Davis is out for a while. I still think they're probably going to add somebody at some point this season because, they obviously want to be as good as possible. And DeMarcus Cousins is somebody who he's going to go to one of these teams we're talking about, right? Like DeMarcus Cousins is a piece that's going to matter because he's had some really good games in Houston. I don't know if people have seen Andre Drummond. Is this a piece that's going to swing something? You know what I mean? I don't know because the numbers will fool you there. But I think if he goes to a team like the Nets or the Celtics, which is, those are the two teams I think he should be looking at, that'll be very interesting. And with DeMarcus Cousins, I think he's somebody that could help somebody too. So there's a lot of factors that we have to see play out.
Well, let me ask both of you. So let's talk about the Lakers, right? And they won. They were the champions last year, but I just don't. Even last year, I didn't feel like they were unbeatable. They got lucky last year. They didn't have to play the Clippers, who they struck. Another team with a lot of talent. They struggled with the Clippers in the regular season. They did. I think they split, but it could have went either way. So they didn't even have to face the Clippers. They faced Denver. Okay, they get past. That wasn't a big surprise. They get by Denver, and then even Miami, who was a surprise in the East to come out of the East. Miami wasn't at full strength ever against the Lakers, and what did that go 6?
It went 6.
Right? It went 6. The Heat still took 2 games without being full strength. So I mean, the Lakers are not unbeatable by any stretch. And like you said, they added people. They did create more depth. They added solid players, but that's all they did. They added solid players. But as you see now, without AD, they didn't add anybody who can pick up the slack.
Right, you're banking on Kyle. You're banking on Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying you're going to be banking on Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell. I don't know if that's necessarily what you want to do. And if you take to that point, Murph, if the Lakers are not, I agree with you, they're not unbeatable. You're not looking at them like the 2016, 2017 Warriors or something like that. With that being said, is it time we give a little bit more? I know people are down on the Clippers stock. Should we start looking at the Jazz seriously? Should we start taking them as a team that could get to the finals? Or are we not there yet? It doesn't sound like a lot of people there yet, because we talked about this on Picks and Props. They're getting a lot of betting action, but people still aren't believing them. Their odds haven't really changed in terms of winning the West or getting to the finals. Either you guys in on the Jazz, or I'm just not in on any Jazz in Utah, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah.
I want to be, but because I would love it personally if, other than the fact that they're from Utah, but I thought
you were going to be like, you loved it if you moved to Utah. I thought that was what you were going to say.
No. I'm saying I would love it personally if a team like the Jazz, similar to kind of like the Heat like last year, and we've had teams like this where they're kind of like on the cusp or whatever. If a team like that were to just flat out win it, not tease us for most of the regular season, then lose in the second round, or just get to the final. Like, I would love if a team like that won the NBA championship behind a guy, Donovan Mitchell, who's not considered a top 10 player mostly, of Rudy Gobert, who's the best defensive center in the league, but is still not regarded as somebody who's like a top 10 or 15 player. Mike Conley, who's a veteran on the other side of his career. Like, I would love it if a team like that just won the title. I would probably enjoy that more than any other result this year, outside of the Heat, because I picked them.
We know.
I picked them earlier this year, so I got to ride with the pick. Or this won't happen. I would really enjoy it if the Knicks somehow just snuck in and won the title before the Nets, because that would be just comical to me. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I do hope that they play each other in the playoff series, Knicks and Nets, which mathematically could happen. We might get a 2-7 there, or something along those lines. But
sign me up for that.
No, Utah, I have to see it. Like, I have to see where we're at game 60, 50. Like later on in the year, just to see. So, in April, maybe. But as of right now, no, I don't buy it.
I'm wondering if there could be another team, Brian, that could be similar to Miami last year. Who's that team? Or a team, we talked about Murph, I think you brought this up, where Denver is in their standings. they're not. I mean, I can still see them finishing in the top 4. I wonder who that team could be. This seems like a year prime for that. Brian's told me this off the podcast. This is a year we could probably see some upsets. Wouldn't shock him if a 7-2 or 8-1.
Especially the Pacers are the team I'm watching for that.
Especially out west, it wouldn't shock me the way things are jumbled. Do you guys think, though, as we go forward, we're now approaching the halfway point, do you think we'll get any more separation in the standings? Or is it going to kind of be like this all year because of COVID? You don't know who's playing. You don't know what teams are going to be on break for a while. Teams still aren't practicing enough. There's a lot of things going on here that makes this NBA season tough to watch. Not to watch. It's still like the quality basketball. Tough to bet on. Tough to just know what's going to happen or who's really separating themselves. I mean, is any of this going to change as we move forward? Do you think that we'll get some of that separation?
Yeah, I doubt it, because not only, of course, the COVID issues and the weird season, but also, I mean, there's parity in the league. I mean, a lot of these teams are really close together. I mean, let's say the Brooklyn Nets start to put together and go on a little run. Are they going to run away from Philly? No, they're not. I don't think so. Milwaukee could get their act together in the regular season at least and start, and keep up with them. Boston should be better than they are. They might go on a run if Kemba starts playing better. So I think, you're not going to run away from any of these good teams. Same thing in the West. Utah takes care of business, but if the Clippers are healthy, they're going to hang the Lakers. LeBron, as long as LeBron is breathing, he's going to keep them close to some extent. Phoenix is good. I mean, and the West in general. I mean, I'm looking at the West right now. I mean, 1 through almost 10 is you have like some serious star power on those teams, or like you have serious talent on all those teams. So I don't think there's going to be separation like that.
Backpack Broadcasting continues to bring you the best original sports content, but now you can get more of the content you love. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus content, including behind-the-scenes footage and interviews from the Sports Walk, Sideline Stories, or the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. All this exclusive content comes via Patreon. There are tiered levels of patronage, and each Backpack Broadcasting patron receives exclusive perks. Your support helps Backpack Broadcasting create more of the original content that you love. Visit Backpack Broadcasting's Patreon page and become a patron today.
Before we get you out of here, Murph, let's look a little college basketball real quick too. We talk about some prospects for next year. Who do you like? The number 1 pick in the draft. Now, the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing a lot of different things. We've been hearing it could be Cade Cunningham. We're hearing other names. Who do you still think is like the favorite for the number 1 pick in the draft?
Number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, yeah, you're right. The odd still. I looked at the odds the other day. It's like they're really high in favor of Cade Cunningham, who I like. But I don't know. To me, he's missing something, and it might be athleticism. I'm not sure because I'm sure it's hard to tell on TV. Like obviously he's a good athlete, but he's not like he's not explosive. But to me, he's like a Grant Hill without the explosive athleticism. But that's a problem. Like when you get to the next level, that could put a ceiling on how good you are. You might be a solid to good pro because he's so skilled. And guys like that, how much better do they really get? You know what I'm saying? Because he's so advanced in terms of his skill level now. How much better is he really going to get? So, we'll see. Jalen Suggs out of Gonzaga.
Who I like a lot. I like him a lot.
He's a point guard. So does he go 1? Probably not. But, maybe he should. But I think it's going to be overall a strong draft because you got guys like Scotty Barnes, who's a 6'7" point guard at Florida State. He's athletic. There's some guy, there's a lot of guys this year that are coming out. So I think the draft will be much deeper. If you have a lottery pick, you can come away with a really good player.
You could. What were your thoughts on all this talk about Jalen Johnson deciding to opt out of the season at Duke? and some members of the media being idiots and saying that he quit on his team and acting like he did something wrong. What did you think about that?
I mean, when I first, I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, I was like, first of all, obviously you have the right to do whatever you want in this situation.
Right.
Like, do whatever you want. It is all about getting drafted. That's fine. But I wonder if, it could hurt his draft stock. The way, with the optics, why, because a lot of times people draft you on, how much you love the game type of stuff, which I think is true. Like we don't see this a lot because most guys don't want to stop playing. Once they start playing for a team, they do kind of want to stick it out and see what they can do. I know he had, people came out and said, oh, he has people in his ear. That's not true. It is really just his parents. I've been on a conference call with a bunch of prospective lottery kids and their parents. And you could tell his parents are very involved, just like same with Jalen Suggs. Their parents are really involved. So I'm sure it's a discussion he had with his mother and father. Overall, there's no way I'm going to agree with people out, old school basketball coaches talking about he quit on his team and, he doesn't care and all this kind of stuff. Is he really injured? Who cares? Do what you have to do to secure the bag. And that's what he's doing. But at the same time, you do wonder, if Duke was playing better, would you keep playing? Or that decision he made is something that can be critiqued.
So I think it's fair to critique it at that point, Brian. I don't know what you think about that because the games the more games he played for Duke, this is the way they are this season, it's going to be meaningless, right? Like these are going to be meaningless games. In a sense, and you talked about securing the bag, and I think I'm assuming this probably when you talked over his family, there's no games that you're going to play right now that's going to help your draft stock. The only thing you can do is possibly get injured, so why not get out now? They
were going to they'll probably make the tournament. I mean, they beat Virginia yesterday, so when people were when it first happened, people were like, oh well, didn't Kyrie do the same thing? No, actually, Kyrie got hurt and came back to play just to play in the NCAA tournament. So it's kind of a reverse type of deal. But, I'm just I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it, but I'm not, but in no way am I going to slander the kid. I mean, this might work out for him. Maybe I was thinking his because part of it too was he wasn't getting as much playing time in the last few games before he decided to get out of there. Maybe his father was like, hey, if Coach K's not playing you, you're hurting your draft stock here. So maybe we get you out and, prevent that. So there's a lot of different ways to put that.
And he's a projected first round pick from what I understand too. I think later in the first round. I mean, we'll see.
I've seen.
ESPN has him 6.
Shit, really? Okay, so he's that high up now?
Yeah, I knew he was in the lottery. I saw late lottery. I didn't know he moved up.
I have a question about the top 10 in the draft that I'm going to ask in a little bit because it's not really that serious because it's only half serious. But when it comes to Jalen Johnson, I'm not I just don't hold it against him because with all this shit going on and how much is he really going to help himself? Theoretically, yes, you would, a few good games down the line, but I don't think it's going to swing in either direction. I think what may end up benefiting him is that because of this, some teams will look at this and be like, not going to take him. He'll fall. He'll end up going on a good team. And then that's it. He'll just be on a better team as a result. Sometimes it's better not to go to 8 or 7 or 9 to those teams like the Kings and the Bulls who are always kind of there. You want to go to 15, 16 to a team who was in the playoffs and who needs somebody like you to build out. So in a weird roundabout way, this might work out. Murph, I wanted to ask you, there's a prospect that I've noticed that you and I have seen in the Big East, and he's been rising up draft boards. And I think he should change his name because he is a black dude and his name is David Duke, unfortunately. And I'm wondering, could the name, I'm half kidding when I ask this, but could the name David Duke hurt his draft stock?
Not if he gets drafted by Utah.
Yeah, no, it's all about, these guys are cutthroat, man. They just care how you play. I mean, some of the people making the decisions might be David Duke fans for all we, I mean, it wouldn't be that hard. It wouldn't be that hard to imagine. So no, so you never know. It might help his stock. You never know. But
he needs to have a middle name or something. I gotta
his father is David Duke Sr. So,
what the fuck are we?
They leaned all the way into this. I love it. They were like,
Coach Cooley told me that. He was like, as David Duke Sr. is his father. So
they leaned all the way into it.
That's where it comes from.
How do you think people who are current members of the KKK feel about him if he ends up playing for their favorite basketball team?
They're not gonna like it. They'll be like, "You're slandering the real David Duke with this black dude." Nah, we're not.
He could be like he's like the Black Klansman. He's gonna be like the Black Klansman. He's gonna do that. Brian, your anger has got your mic out again. But David Duke, man, the fact that his family said, no, we had this once. I want a junior. Let's do it again. Go ahead, Brian.
According to his Wikipedia, he doesn't have a middle name. So they're like super old. He can't even go like DJ. Nope. You know what I mean? Like if his middle name was Jeffrey or Jerome or some shit.
His father must have loved, like, just
pissing
like,
him off.
There's no way he's gonna go through the same pain I went through. That's it.
He's from Providence. Yeah, and it's not even like he doesn't look like insert, because I have this joke on the group text where like all black conservatives kind of look the same. So like and if you look at pictures of some of the dudes who are black conservatives and women, you'll get what I'm saying. But we'll explain that theory another day because I might be in trouble already. David Duke, like he got dreads. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different.
Yeah. His name, along with his whole steez, is gonna anger that segment of the population that likes a different really David Duke.
I hope he's a fucking perennial all-star.
That'd
would be
great. That's crazy. And because when you cover college basketball, he's like a junior, so we've hered his name for a couple years. But I tweeted about him the other day, and someone was like, "Get out of here! That's his name." So it's like the larger society has no clue yet. So yeah, he's gonna get when he gets drafted, it's all gonna be brand new to everybody. It's all coming at him once again.
I'm here for this.
To that point, Murph, we've seen him in the Big East and against St. John's and teams like that, Big East tournament. Like, I didn't think he was ever gonna be someone we're talking about as like a top 10 pick. It was probably not even until his sophomore year last year where you're like, oh, this could be an NBA player, but I didn't think like we'd be talking about in this draft class that we project to be really good, that David Duke, the basketball player from Providence, would be somebody who is a likely lottery pick. Like that's kind of crazy to me also. So again, I hope he's really good because I just want anarchy. You know what I mean? Like I just not actual anarchy.
Not actual anarchy. We got you.
Right. No, because that could be twisted in a different, like I've already said too much.
He does remind me of the kid from Providence who where's he at now? The point guard.
Chris Dunn.
Chris Dunn. He reminds me of Chris Dunn a little bit. Kind of little taller, little more versatile in terms of like he's not a straight up point guard, or if he is a point guard, he's big and can rebound, score. But he does, the last few games though, he's been, he hasn't been able to score the last couple games. So I still think he has some improving to do. It surprised me to see that he's projected top 10. I saw that NBA draft.net. I don't know about that, but we'll see. We'll see. That name is going to be fun.
David Duke in the NBA. All right, we'll end it there. Go ahead.
Last thing I want to say, because we're not doing a one-time for your mind. I'm gonna explain my background because you were hating on UConn earlier. I'm not a UConn fan. Shabazz Napier is my background today, and the reason why is because he put on for Team Puerto Rico in the FIBA America qualifying, 22.7 assists against the Bahamas. He played a couple games, played really well. I just want more players. Period. It's like doesn't matter what country. I just want more players to rep where their family origins are from. Like I would like to see. Klay Thompson suit up instead of for Team USA for the Bahamas. I wish that Carmelo Anthony would come over and play for Team Puerto Rico before he retires.
He probably will.
I would even take Jonathan Isaac, even though, he said a couple things last year that was a little kind of weird. Like we could all, do this together, right? For the good of our nations. I'm sure there's somebody with Grenadian ties, Dexter.
No, there's nobody. There's nobody. We are a soccer playing nation. We are not a basketball playing country. Cricket, soccer, and cricket. That is right.
Somebody's dad got to be from Grenada.
Hey, I mean, maybe it extends down, and maybe my daughter has that happens. But
that's gonna listen. I've already told Dex I already told Dex Simone Henry sounds like a #1 pick in the WNBA draft.
I hope so.
You know what I'm saying?
I hope so.
Name sounds good.
That sounds like a good name. But
we're talking about when was she born? 16. So we're talking about 2038. Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
For University of Pitt or something like that.
Well, maybe Pitt's women's program becomes
and then
great again.
we could have her on my Up Next podcast.
Yeah, there you go. You can have her on.
She's in like 5th grade and she's a prodigy.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, Brian, I didn't like having to see UConn in my face for most of this episode. I never liked that.
It's half Puerto Rican, yo. It's half Puerto Rican.
UConn. All right, Murph.
It's heritage, you know.
I hear you got a rep. I can't be mad at that. I can't be mad at that.
Honestly, I was proud that he did that because I feel like a lot of dudes, if they don't make Team USA, then they're like, all right, I'm not going to play internationally. Yeah. Like for me, if I was good enough, I'd play in Team Puerto Rico before I'd play USA.
I respect that. It's gonna be, he's got a rep just the way there's going to be some people repping the wrong David Duke when David Duke gets drafted and they realize that he's not who they think that he is or what he might stand for.
I wish him all the luck in the world, sincerely. I hope he's a top 10 player.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
All right, that's it for this episode of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 167. Thanks to our guest, our man, the Blacketologist Jamal Murphy. You can check him out on Picks and Props, NBA Picks and Props on the Props Network with us every Friday, 6 p.m. Me, Brian, Murph, Gerard, Hector. We do the thing there. You can also check him out on the Bros Pod, and you can check him out on the Up Next podcast, which hopefully in like 5 years my daughter is on. We'll see. That might happen. Yep. For Jamal Murphy, Brian Fonseca, I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.